When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright.
Hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
For anyone who's had the joy of having a conversation with me that's lasted longer than 20 minutes, will know that I am a huge Marvel fan. In many ways, I've probably liked about 95% of the things that they've produced. I liked Thor: The Dark World. Not many people did, but see, when I watch that movie, I just pretend that Malekith isn't there. From then on, it's a pretty good watch. Apart from the fact that Thor's all boring and, save the universe and be responsible with my girlfriend, Asgard. Shut up. Go hit on that hot girl you're always fighting with. Go get pissed with your Asgardian warrior friends. That's what we really want to see. 3 hours of Thor on a pub crawl, going from bar to bar, just smashing glasses. Another!
Yes, Thor, that'd be £4.50, please.
I only have this gold medallion, but it's worth 100 of your human ale.
Right, yes, but we still don't accept those. Maybe if it was Scottish.
Listen here, bar wench! Getting off track. We're here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this movie had a lot riding on it. Not only did it have to be a good movie, it has to carry on the Marvel streak, it has to be a good sequel, and what seems like an impossible task, it has to be better than the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which me, amongst many people, think is a fucking good film. So, why am I here to talk about it? Well, I think it did those things. I think it was a really good sequel, and for a sequel that had that many expectations building and building and building and building over months, I think it really delivers. It's a good film, and a great sequel, just a great film. And a lot of movies, especially superhero movies recently, I'm not naming names, Suicide Squad, when the expectations get too high, the movie really disappoints. And I mean, look, Suicide Squad was a bad movie, high expectations are not. However, I've even had a lot of people say that they were disappointed with Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't know why. Spider-Man Homecoming was just everything I wanted it to be, but a lot of people were disappointed with it purely because they just have seen and watched Spider-Man all their lives. So why, in my eyes, did Guardians of the Galaxy do so well? Firstly, all we need to do is look at the first scene. Oh shit, right, okay. This right here is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie, here's my quick review. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is one of the best movies to come of 2017. For me personally, maybe the best movie to come of 2017. So yes, go watch it. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. They somehow made a better soundtrack, they made me care about the characters even more, and I am more on board with the Guardians of the Galaxy than I have ever been. Go watch this movie, you will not regret it. And if you don't like it, well, you're dumb as shit. Spoilers. Spoiler warning, okay? Hopefully there's some text or something on screen. Spoilers. I can't believe they killed Iron Man! I'm joking. For those who didn't turn off the spoilers fast enough, I hope that fucking scared you. Seriously, back off. Watch the movie, then come back and watch this video afterwards, because I've got some things I'd like to say. Right, straight from the opening scene, we get weirdy wackadoo stuff, and I just love it. All the Guardians are back together, standing on this neon luminous fluorescent yellow floor, and a big squid monster is flying down from the sky that they need to fight. James Gunn, thank you so much. How can you not get excited by that? A talking tree, a raccoon, a green lady, a WWE wrestler, and Chris Pratt fighting a giant squid. I didn't realise it until I was sitting in that cinema, but that is something I've always wanted to see. And what did I want to see even more? The fact that they barely showed it. Why this opening scene made me know that this movie was going to be different to any film I'd ever seen was the fact that we thought we were going to get a big opening scene battle like we do in every Marvel movie. That's not a bad thing, Marvel. Keep doing what you're doing. I love your films. Instead of getting this big battle against a squid that I thought we were going to get, that I was really excited for, we got something better. See the Guardians running towards the big giant squid, and the camera turns and cuts to a tiny little baby Groot. Instead of fighting a big squid monster, we get a tiny baby tree dancing to the Electric Light Orchestra. It was such a new and original and entertaining way to open a Marvel movie. It sets up the soundtrack perfectly, it tells the audience that this is it, you're back with the Guardians, and I fucking knew it from that moment. And it just reminds the audience that this is what we're gonna get. It's this silly, ridiculously fun movie where tiny baby trees can dance to ELO. And then we meet the Sovereign. The first time I watched this movie, I will admit, I panicked. I'd heard from rumours and articles and other YouTube videos that the Sovereign were going to be the big villains of this movie. So when I met the Sovereign, I was on the edge of my seat. What am I going to see? Show me compelling villains, Marvel, please, because you don't have the best track record with villains. And I really panicked when I thought that the villain's motivation in this movie was going to be that Rocket stole some batteries. I really panicked the first time, but the movie fooled me. James Gunn fooled me. I think he did it on purpose. I think it was his way of saying, I know Marvel don't have the best villains, fuck you. And then we meet Ego. Kurt Russell is the perfect casting choice. I think Ego probably could have been the father of Chris Pratt. I love what they did with Ego. And I've never cared so much for a villain in any Marvel movie. Not even Loki. I love the way they set up the character contrast between Star-Lord and Ego. Watching them come together and then to be torn apart at the end of the movie, it was just different. It wasn't like the rest of the movies. It wasn't a hero versus villain story. It was a father versus son story. The movie captured so much emotion in the characters, and I love that. One thing that I've noticed in many blockbusters over recent years is I struggle to feel for their main characters. I felt nothing when Superman died. I think Ego was one of the best Marvel villains we've had yet. He was menacing and he was a threat like every villain should be, but he was also really relatable. And yeah, I knew he was the villain and I was still rooting for the Guardians, but I never thought he was evil, and that's my favourite kind of antagonist. James Gunn, well done for making me care about a villain. And because of Ego, Star-Lord actually has developed now into probably one of my favourite Marvel characters, maybe my favourite Marvel character. I mean, my heart will always lie with you, Captain America. Star-Lord is just so cool. He's like really cool. He's like, I want to be like, he's an idol. Like, anyone wants to be that cool. And you just want to give him a hug. And you know he's just a lovely guy. He's just a swell dude. And I don't know if I'm talking about Chris Pratt or Star-Lord here anymore, so they're both great. They're both the same guy. And you know what? All in all, I just began to like all of these characters more now. Baby Groot. I loved him. You guys know that. I got to learn a lot more about Rocket and Yondu. Yondu was a character that I wasn't really that fussed about in the first movie. I was so sad with how this movie ended. Little moment here for spoilers, because this is the big spoiler at the end of the movie. Anyone is still watching this that hasn't seen the film, just stop it now. So when Yondu died, I was really sad. He was just a character that didn't bother me that much in the last movie. I knew he was important and I liked him because Michael Rooker's a great actor, and playing Cat Stevens' father and son did not help the fact that I was kind of sad. James Gunn, your music is gonna bring me to tears, and movies never bring me to tears, except Spider-Man 3. I really liked Gamora in this film. I really liked Gamora. I liked the fact that she was taking on this family role. She kind of reminded me a little bit of that, like, you know, big sister that's just kind of annoyed at everyone all the time. The big sister that has to deal with her really irritating little brothers. And what James Gunn did with Drax. A lot of people didn't like the fact that Drax became this comic relief character, but I really did. I really didn't know that Dave Bautista was a comedy actor. Like, Drax had some funny moments in the last movie, but now he's actually cracking jokes. He pulled a little practical prank at the beginning of the movie on Mantis, and he was really proud of himself. Do whatever you want with any of the characters. James Gunn, I would follow you into the gates of Mordor. His methods of storytelling are just so original, and he doesn't write stories where there's a plot that characters have to follow. He writes stories where there is a plot because characters are doing certain things. His plots wouldn't exist without the choices of his characters, and that's what I love about his movies. One thing a lot of people did complain about with this movie, and did kind of trip me up a bit at first when I first watched it, is the pacing of the movie. When I watched this movie, I was kind of scared because I felt like I'd only been sat in the cinema for about 30 minutes, and so much stuff had already happened. The beginning of this movie is very fast-paced, and the only reason that scares me is a lot of big blockbusters that try and go fast-paced from start to finish usually struggle a bit towards the end. And the first movie was fast-paced, but it wasn't that rapid, and I didn't want the tone of this movie to be too different. Basically, I just didn't want them to rush things because I really wanted this to be a great story, and I was worried that they were really rushing things at the beginning. And a reason a lot of people complain is because they rushed it and then slowed it down. I'm very happy they rushed it and slowed it down because they did it in a way that it worked. So, like I mentioned, when I watched this movie and thought that James Gunn was setting up the Sovereign Fleet as the villains, when the first 30 minutes happened, I was worried because I was like, right, these villains are established for a very basic reason, and now the Guardians are doing all of these things and there's so much happening. But the moment we find out there's more happening now, and Mantis reveals that Ego might be the villain of this story, and we start to get bad feelings about the planet Ego, the movie starts to slow down. You realise in the audience that that fast, rapid pace you saw at the beginning was done very much on purpose by James Gunn, so we could have this real contrast. A lot of people complain, they say not much happens from the moment that the Guardians go to Ego, but I think in that half of the movie there was more character development than maybe any other Marvel film has ever done. And no, the pacing isn't perfect, but it definitely works with the story. And when I've sat down and thought about it myself, I really wouldn't have done it any other way, so in my eyes, James Gunn, you nailed it. Overall, I thought this movie was just as funny as the first. They somehow made a soundtrack that was even better than the first one. I mean, in my opinion, not everyone's. I listen to it at least once a week. They showed me Watchers. I know to a lot of people that's not a big deal, but for me, a comic book nerd, seeing Watchers is like seeing gold. It is like when you're walking down the street and you look over in that little patch of grass and there's a £10 note like flapping in the wind and you just think to yourself, oh, I feel richer. That's what I felt like seeing the Watchers. I jumped out my seat. The 6 of my friends that were there with me were all shouting and telling me to sit the fuck down. But it just didn't stop me. Everyone in the cinema was looking. Did I give a shit? No. No, I didn't. I was having a moment with myself and this film. Fuck! Guys, you can probably tell already, overall, I loved this movie. And I'm glad I started my channel with a movie I love. You guys can know that I'm not just someone who hates every film. And in the future, I might review other movies that I love as well. Just because I like talking about them. But this movie, yeah, it did a great job. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 did a great job of making me happy. And yes, Guardians of the Galaxy, another way of just making me happy is if anyone ever sets a massacre with a flying whistle arrow to Jay and the Americans come a little bit closer, I will be the happiest man alive.
Come a little bit closer, you're my kind of man, so big and so strong. Come a little bit closer, I'm all alone, and the night is so long.
Oh, and also that Thor stuff at the beginning, yeah, that went on for a while. I'm not promising anything. If you guys want to see all of that, and I mean, it's weird. Like, it's really weird. Just let me know. Maybe I'll compile that into one, like, little 2-minute video. Anyway, for now, adios, muchacha.